You've seen the posts, right? The hyper successful CEO who's up before the sun, absolutely crushing 100-hour weeks, and just operating on a totally different level. But what does that week really look like behind the polished social media facade? Well, today, we're going to deconstruct the actual blueprint. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the CEO blueprint itself, then we'll dive into the myth of the perfect Monday. After that, we'll navigate the chaos of the midweek marathon, really get into the focus on people and problems, and finally, look at the strategy behind the weekend recharge. Let's do it. So first things first, before we can even get into the day-to-day grind, we got to understand who we're talking about. This isn't just any executive. We're unpacking the millionaire sales CEO, a person defined by just massive pressure and, well, equally massive rewards. And that brings us to the biggest question of this whole explainer. That 100-hour work week, is it really a badge of honor that leads to success? Or is it kind of a myth that hides a much more complex, much more strategic reality? It's time to peel back that curtain. So, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to start where the whole legend begins, that superhuman, hyper-productive Monday morning. This is really the origin story of the super CEO. Oh yeah, we've all seen this timeline, haven't we? It's the perfect picture of discipline, hustle, and even work-life balance, all before most of us have even had our first cup of coffee. It looks amazing, honestly, like a machine just programmed for peak performance. But this perfect schedule brings up a really fascinating concept, productivity theater, and it makes you wonder, is that 4:30 a.m. workout and that deep work block actually driving the business forward? Or is it just part of a performance where we're mixing up being busy with actually getting things done? Okay, so once we get past that picture-perfect Monday morning, we slam into the midweek marathon. And this is where all those carefully laid plans meet the absolute chaos of running a huge sales organization. And this is where the week just becomes a constant battle. You've got reactive work on one side, putting out fires, answering urgent calls, and on the other, you have the proactive stuff that actually grows the company. A CEO's success really is defined by which side of this chart gets most of their time. And this chart just lays it all bare. Look at that. A staggering 35% of their time is spent on unplanned meetings. Another 30% on just managing people. Remember that deep work block for Monday? Turns out it's just a tiny slice of the pie. The job is way less about quiet, focused work and way more about navigating interruptions and people. And that brings us right to the absolute heart of the matter. This is the part of the CEO's job that you can't schedule or optimize with an app. It's all about managing the people and solving their problems. On the surface, yeah, the pressure is all about hitting these insane numbers, $25 million in one quarter. It's a huge, intimidating target that really dictates so much of the stress and direction of the company. But here's the secret, right? The best leaders out there, they know that people aren't truly motivated by a number on a spreadsheet. Real leadership is about building a vision people can believe in and creating a culture where people want to win for each other, not just for the bottom line. So the real work isn't just staring at data. It's communicating clearly, shaping the culture, handling negotiations where the stakes are astronomical, and making those final, gut-wrenching calls that nobody else can make. The really human stuff. So after a whole week of navigating chaos and making these high-stakes decisions, how does it all wrap up? Well, let's look at the weekend. For an effective CEO, it turns out the weekend is just as strategic as Monday morning. Now, this flies right in the face of that hustle culture we see everywhere, doesn't it? The idea that you have to be always on isn't a recipe for success, it's a recipe for burnout. The smartest performers know that planned, deliberate recovery is absolutely critical for staying at the top of your game. See, their weekend isn't just about crashing on the couch. It's a structured process. First, they reflect. What worked? What didn't? Second, they recharge. And that means truly disconnecting to get that mental energy back. And finally, they realign, setting priorities so they start the next week with clarity, not just a long to-do list. Which leaves us with this final, really important question. This whole intense cycle of strategic work, chaotic problem solving, and planned recovery, is it a sustainable blueprint for long-term success? Or is it just an inevitable path toward burnout, no matter how well you manage it? It really makes you think about your own relationship with work, rest, and what high performance actually means.